There was once a boy named Daniel, born in a village so small that even the map seemed to forget it. His family's house wasn't made of bricks or marble, but of cracked mud walls and a roof that leaked when it rained. His father, a weary farmer, woke before sunrise every day, his back bent from years of labor, his palms scarred from gripping rough tools. His mother stretched flour so thin that sometimes dinner was nothing but bread and water. Life was hard, painfully hard. And yet, inside that little home, Daniel carried a dream that was far bigger than the life around him. He didn't dream of owning acres of land or big machines like the other boys in his village. No. Daniel's heart beat for something different, for colors, lines, and strokes of imagination. He wanted to paint. But in a house where even food was a luxury, paints were a fantasy. Daniel's first paintbrush was nothing but a broken stick, his first canvas the back of old newspapers, and his first colors came from crushed flowers and ashes from the stove. Every evening, after hours of working in the fields beside his father, Daniel would sit alone, his hands blistered, his stomach empty, but his eyes full of longing. He would draw in silence, on scraps of paper, on walls, sometimes even on the ground. It was as if painting was the only thing keeping him alive. But his father didn't see it that way. One morning, his father caught him drawing instead of helping with the cattle. His face hardened, his voice sharp. "Daniel, these lines, these drawings, they won't put food on our table. You are my son. You are a farmer's son. You belong to the soil, not to these foolish dreams." Those words broke Daniel. It felt like the one person he wanted to make proud had just rejected the deepest part of him. He lowered his head, hiding the tears that threatened to fall. Still, he didn't stop. Late at night, when everyone else slept, Daniel would sit by the faint glow of a kerosene lamp and sketch. His little sister, only 12, would sometimes wake and quietly watch him. She was the only one who believed in him. "Brother," she whispered once, "one day, people will know your name. Don't stop." But life wasn't kind. When Daniel was 16, he heard about a small art competition in the nearby town. He had no paints, no brushes, no proper paper. But with trembling hands, he drew his entry on an old sackcloth using charcoal. He walked barefoot to the town, carrying it as if it were treasure. When the competition ended, his work was left unnoticed in a corner. People laughed at it, some whispering, "This looks like a child's drawing." Daniel stood there frozen, his heart shattering. He walked back home with heavy feet and heavier tears, each step echoing failure. That night, in anger and pain, he almost set fire to all his drawings. But his sister stopped him. She held his trembling hands and said, "Don't burn your dreams, brother. They're the only light we have." Her words saved him. But life tested him again. When Daniel turned 20, tragedy struck. His father fell gravely ill. With no money for doctors, Daniel had no choice but to take full responsibility for the farm. Day after day, he labored under the scorching sun, his shoulders carrying loads far heavier than his age. His body ached, his clothes were torn, his shoes barely held together. But at night, when exhaustion made his hands shake, he still painted. Because for him, painting wasn't a hobby, it was his heartbeat. And then, one ordinary day, something extraordinary happened. A schoolteacher named Mr. Harris came to buy vegetables from the farm. While waiting, he noticed Daniel sketching on a wooden crate. Curious, he asked, "Did you make this?" Embarrassed, Daniel nodded. The teacher's eyes softened as he looked at the lines, the details, the emotions that poured out of such simple strokes. "Daniel," he whispered, "these are not just drawings. These are your soul speaking." For the first time, someone outside his family saw him. Believed in him. Mr. Harris gave him real paints and brushes, the first Daniel had ever held. That night, Daniel sat alone, holding the brush in his hand, tears running down his cheeks. To anyone else, it was just wood and bristles. But to Daniel, it felt like hope. With Mr. Harris's help, Daniel entered a city art competition. Walking into that hall was terrifying. The room was filled with polished paintings from professionals, their canvases glowing under bright lights. Daniel stood in worn-out clothes, holding a piece he had poured his soul into, a painting of his father's rough, wrinkled hands holding soil. The judges stopped at his work. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They simply stared. Because his painting wasn't just art, it was pain, sacrifice, and love captured on canvas. When the winner was announced, Daniel's name echoed through the hall. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. Tears blurred his vision as the audience clapped. The farmer's son had won. That single moment changed everything. Opportunities opened, scholarships arrived, exhibitions followed. Daniel's art traveled to places he had never even seen on a map. But he never forgot where he came from. With his earnings, he built a small art school in his village. The same village where his dreams were once mocked. He filled it with brushes, paints, and canvases, gifts he never had as a child. Standing in front of dozens of children holding brushes, he told them, "Dreams are like seeds. They may be buried deep in the dirt, unseen and forgotten. But with persistence and hope, they grow. Even in the hardest soil." And so, Daniel, the boy who once sketched with ashes on sackcloth, didn't just paint pictures. He painted his future. Backhand index pointing right. If you liked this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more motivational stories.